Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, March 22nd, 2017. For all Western New York news and radio, I'm Scott Leffler. Sunny with a high near 26 today and an overnight low around 16. Thursday looks to be sunny with a high near 39. What's in the news? Attorney General Eric Schneiderman on Tuesday highlighted what he says are disastrous impacts President Trump's proposed budget cuts to the Environmental Protection Agency could have across New York State. Under the president's proposed budget blueprint released last Thursday, the EPA would face some of the steepest cuts as funding for the agency would be reduced by 31%. The New York Attorney General's office also announced on Tuesday that his office received a record number of data breach notices in 2016. The close to 1,300 reported data breach notices in the year represented a 60% increase over the previous year. These breaches exposed the personal records of 1.6 million New Yorkers, representing a threefold increase over the prior year. Schneiderman offered all sorts of stats and charts because everyone loves stats and charts. We shared them on allwesternnewyorknews.com. U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand joined Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma and U.S. Representatives Jaron Huffman of California and Steve Russell of Oklahoma in introducing the National Adoption and Foster Care Home Study Act legislation that builds on successes in states like California to improve the matching of children and families in foster care and adoptions in the United States, including the advancement of home study standards. The bill would create a national standard and database to achieve greater uniformity and transparency to ensure that the needs of children are put first no matter where they live. In response to a comment Tuesday from Governor Cuomo in which he said he would, quote, try like heck to address voting reform after the budget, Susan Lerner, Executive Director of Common Cause New York, said it's not good enough to just, quote, try like heck, pointing out that New York is near the bottom in terms of voter turnout. The New York State Bar Association chimed in on President Trump's budget to eliminate funding for the Legal Services Corporation, saying it would devastate the ability of many New Yorkers to obtain essential legal services in such life-altering cases as evictions from housing and obtaining protection from domestic violence. The 72,000-member Bar Association is the largest voluntary state bar association in the nation. It was founded in 1876. Members of the New York Air Guard National 107th Airlift Wing marked the renaming of the unit to the 107th Attack Wing during a short ceremony on Tuesday at the airbase in Niagara Falls. The 107th Airlift Wing was officially redesignated as the Attack Wing on March 15th, reflecting the wing's mission of providing aircrew members and supporting staff training to operate the MQ-9 Reaper remotely piloted aircraft, or drone. The wing began transformation and training of crews and personnel in 2014. The Niagara Arts and Cultural Center is looking for artists of all ages and backgrounds to participate in their 13th annual Beyond the Barrel exhibit. A link to the prospectus is available at allwesternewyorknews.com. Entries are due by May 1st. Gasoline prices in Rochester and Buffalo are down a penny this week to $2.34 and $2.40 respectively, according to AAA of Western and Central New York. Members of the New York GOP congressional delegation, including Representative Chris Collins and Tom Reed, joined together to applaud the inclusion of the Medicaid local share limitation proposal in the manager's amendment to the American Health Care Act. The Medicaid local share limitation, which was proposed by Collins and Congressman John Faso, would bar federal reimbursements from New York State Medicaid funds raised from local governments, essentially shifting the cost from the counties to the state. New York State currently raises $7 billion from its local governments to fund its $27 billion Medicaid liability, which is the largest in the nation. 49-year-old Jack Reed III of Williamsville was sentenced by U.S. District Judge Richard Arcara to 25 years in prison and 10 years of supervised release. Arcara also ordered Reed to forfeit $1 million and 2 properties in Williamsville and Amherst. Reed's sentence follows his conviction after a jury trial of conspiring to possess with intent to distribute 5 kilograms or more of cocaine and possession with intent to distribute cocaine. Wilfredo Sanchez, age 21 of Rochester, who was convicted of possession of a firearm in furtherance of a drug trafficking crime, was sentenced to 60 months in prison and 5 years supervised release. Last May, Sanchez was pulled over on North Clinton Avenue in Rochester and found to have heroin, marijuana, $1,600, and a loaded handgun with a defaced serial number. Police news. A federal grand jury has returned a 13-count superseding indictment charging 49-year-old Oliver Kimmons of Lockport with possession and distribution of heroin and fentanyl, maintaining a drug premises, and sex trafficking. Prosecutors say that over the course of 3 years, the defendant solicited young, opiate-addicted women to have sex with paying customers and himself. In exchange, Kimmons provided the victims with heroin. If convicted, he could see 15 years in prison. Antoine K. Dean, age 36, of Buffalo, was arrested and charged by criminal complaint with possession with intent to distribute fentanyl and butyrol fentanyl, possession of a firearm in furtherance of drug trafficking, and possession of a firearm and ammunition by a convicted felon. The charges carry a minimum penalty of 5 years in prison, a maximum of life, and a $1 million fine. Prosecutors say that in November, police found the defendant a loaded .45 caliber pistol and a bag of approximately 56 grams of powder containing fentanyl and butyrol fentanyl. Dean is on parole for a 2001 manslaughter conviction and is legally prohibited from possessing a gun. Sports! The Sidney Crosby-led Pittsburgh Penguins delivered a 3-1 defeat to the Buffalo Sabres at KeyBank Center last night. Sam Reinhart scored the Sabres goal, assisted by Hudson Fasching and Marcus Foligno. Robin Lehner made 31 saves against Crosby and company. Today's episode of Corey Comments On, heard after the 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. news on All West New York Radio, and available for download at allwestnewyorkradio.com after 5 p.m., deals with last night's Sabres game and 2 calls he questions. Tonight's Think So Joe on All West New York Radio will feature the music of Digital Afterlife, The Search and Find, Magic Honey, and Exum Priory. Not so coincidentally, those same 4 bands are playing the All West New York Radio 11th anniversary party at Stamps on Saturday. That Joe guy's a good planner. Okay, that's the news. For All West New York News and Radio, I'm Scott Leffler. Have a great day.